I've been asked by a couple of good friends to make some content in English. I think there's some great instructional videos out there on YouTube doing the same things I'm doing, spoon carving, and some really great content. I'm going to continue doing most of my videos in Hebrew, but every now and then I'm going to try and make just a kind of quick instructional video, just some quick carving, and of course in English. I think a really good way to know if I should continue doing that is if you guys subscribe and like this video, and that way I can get, an idea if whether you like it or not, or an idea if I should continue doing videos in English. Today we're going to cover some simple, kind of axing techniques and maybe some knife and spoon knife techniques, making just a really simple kind of teaspoon. Hopefully we're going to, go through the process quite quickly. I'm not going to show everything I do, but I'm definitely going to show the gist of it, the major parts. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you find this video useful. The first thing that we usually do is we're going to try and get a billet of some sort. That means, kind of a, I guess just a plank of wood. There's so many different ways to do this, and I think you kind of need to go on a self-discovery journey just to kind of create the very, very simple, we call this a blank or a plank of wood. It's I guess there's not a lot to it. You can get this just by cleaving, different pieces of wood and splitting them and getting the right piece. I've already put on just kind of a simple design. I hope you can catch this. Very, very simple design for a quick teaspoon. We're gonna work into this design with the axe first, and since teaspoons don't need to have such of a bendy shape like eating spoons do, we're going to put in that bendy shape with the knife as opposed to doing it with the axe. So the first thing that we're going to try and get done is getting into kind of the neck area of this spoon. And we're going to do that with the axe with some simple axe, cuts. And people often ask me, why do I prefer doing this with axe only and not putting in stop cuts with a saw? If you've done spoon carving, you probably know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, if I were to create a cut in this, in this area, in this portion with a saw, I'd be creating a stop cut where I can work into that cut without being worried about, the axe continuing and maybe splitting either the bowl end of the spoon off or parts of the handle off. I do prefer doing this only with the axe, just for a simple reason. I can always resharpen my axe, and saws go dull over time. I do enjoy using them. I do like using saws, but I prefer using my axe for as many parts of the spoon as possible, just, to kind of hone in my axing skills. But also at the same time, I feel like this is a much more efficient tool to do the job that I'm trying to do. Let's take a look at how that looks. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a series of stop cuts going up all the way till kind of where that bowl meets the piece of wood. So let's see how that looks. And that's kind of what we're looking for when we're cutting in to the wood. So this is what we're looking for when we're cutting into the wood. We're looking to get, some really deep cuts that have kind of gone up. And we can now come back down with the axe through those cuts. And what we're getting is a really nice, kind of chip coming off. That's going to, help us by doing those stop cuts. We've severed the grain and we've shortened the grain length, and therefore it's easier for us to get that slicing motion going down into the cut. So I've come quite close to the bottom end of the spoon, the handle actually. I'm going to do the same for the other side. Notice that how when I was working with the axe, this angle has changed. It's tilted ever so slightly so that I can kind of get, the angle that I want with the axe. The axe is going to be coming down in a straight line constantly. What's changing is the angle of this piece of wood. For the next part, what we are going to do is we're going to kind of get this. I have a little notch in my axing block that's quite natural. Actually, it comes from a split in the block. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my spoon in here, and I'm going to come down kind of into the area where the bowl meets the handle or the neck of the spoon. And I'm starting to create what I like to call a half V cut. In other words, one side of the cut is going to be slanted, the other side is going to be at a 90-degree angle. And that's kind of how this looks. We're going to take a closer look of that in just a moment. So by doing this half V cut, what I've done is I've just done the same exact thing of taking a saw and cutting into that neck. So what I'm trying to achieve is the fact that I've severed the grain, and therefore now I can come work with the axe from this direction, and hopefully my cut won't continue into the bowl end. Let's take a look at how that looks. And what I have is just kind of a simple, shape ready to be worked on the other side. I think that's a really important part of what I'm trying to do, is that I've done this part first. I've kind of finished off one side, and only then will I move to work on the other side. Let's take a look again. So again, I can now work down. And what I can do now is try and get kind of the front end of the spoon to go the way I've designed it. Again, notice that my left hand was moving when I was doing that cut. Very nice. I can now refine the back end of the bowl. And I'm going to do the same for the other side. Before we get to the knife work, we're just going to take the bottom corners off and create this angle that we're looking for. So the first part, I'm going to go all the way from the back end of the bowl, so from where the neck meets the bowl, and I'm going to create kind of a cupping in this direction. This is the back end of the bowl. This is our top side of the bowl. And this being a teaspoon, or just, kind of a, I guess maybe it can be a yogurt spoon or something like that, it doesn't need to have so much depth and so much crank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now do the same thing that I've done on the back end of the bowl. I'm going to do to the back end of the handle. So what I'm going to do now is just take the corners off and give our bowl kind of a rounded off shape. And what I've done here is I'm trying to follow the same facet that I've created into the handle. I'm going to do the same with this side. So the first thing is I'm going to try and square up the top face of the spoon. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to my, kind of initial design, though quite fast I'm going to find out that I'm not really interested in it. I'm going to try and play around this knot over here a little bit. But I do need to first square off the two-dimensional spoon that we have going on here. What I'll usually do is start with the bowl, I'll move into the handle, and then kind of go from there. Once I'm happy with the general shape, I'm going to erase my drawing and kind of go, again, I'm going to go from there and see what I can do. So let's get into the handle. Let's get into the bowl. And I'm using a lovely blade from Avinoam. His name's Dudet Knives. Again, beautiful, beautiful knife. This is a eucalyptus handle I made. It's nice and heavy, and I really love the grain in the handle. So I'm just working around the bowl. I don't mean for this video to be a video about the different knife holes. If you're not, sure what you're doing, you're better off to just go to some kind of workshop or, not a spoon clinic or some kind of lesson of some sort and get, your knife holes sorted out before you give this a try. I'm just sorting out kind of the bowl. I do want the bowl to have an asymmetric kind of ending to it, so I'm going to give it just that. I'm going to work from down here, come across. Yeah, I really like that, kind of bowl shape. And let's continue. Just quick kind of design thinking in my mind. I usually really enjoy having a full stop here. In other words, kind of creating a 90-degree corner between where the bowl meets the handle. Every now and then, I do like to kind of make a flowing cut. In other words, it's not really a 90-degree angle where both cuts kind of meet, and then we get this kind of meeting area. Now I'm going to try and see if I can go, kind of round it off just a little bit using the tip of my knife and kind of going into that cut. Yeah, we're getting somewhere. Now, I did forget to say earlier, this is a quite dry piece of cherry. I'm enjoying carving it, but it does need a little bit more kind of strength into the different cuts. I do like every now and then to carve dry pieces of wood, also because sometimes that's all I can get, but I enjoy sitting down and kind of finishing the product in one sitting, especially if it's just kind of a simple spoon. So it's really important for me to kind of get the bowl shape right, you know, now, as opposed to later. This is going to dictate how I, you know, kind of line up the design that I'm looking for. And at this point, it is more of kind of what I'm looking for in my head as opposed to what I've drawn on this spoon. So soon enough, we're going to get rid of our drawing and try to see if we can, you know, make something out of this. Just trying to get really nice, straight, flattened lines into the spoon. A bit more from this side. And I think I'm just about ready to get rid of that top drawing. I think this part, you know, really helps us kind of understand how our eyes, you know, see certain things in a certain way by looking at the spoon when it has these pencil marks on it. My eyes are often drawn to the pencil, and it's hard for me to pick up on any, you know, kind of small nuances that might be happening in this spoon. So again, I think I'm ready to kind of rid the pencil marks. This little knot is gonna give me some trouble, as I've guessed. Little change in direction. Nothing too hard. And then we're gonna kind of come down, and what I'm doing is, at the same time that I'm erasing my pencil marks, I'm also slanting the cut inwards to get a little bit of crank from you know, from the spoon. In other words, a little bit of a three-dimensional, you know, kind of look to it. I think this side came out really nice. So that little dip, we're going to see it a little bit more here. And this is obviously going to be easier once we take out some material from the bowl. I'm just kind of giving myself some. And this is going to be easier once we take out some material from inside the bowl. I'm just starting it off now to get, you know, a feel of how it's going to look and where I want to take the spoon. In other words, where I want to take kind of the dipping, you know, down the road once we do get to taking material out of the bowl. So right off the bat, I've noticed how my corners are not the way I want them to be. So I really like this side. I don't like this side so much. All right, not too bad. Let's try and work out this knot area. And often what we can do is actually go against, you know, the direction that we think we should be going in, and see if that works, if that gives us a cleaner cut. In this case, it did. So again, I'm just trying to get the symmetry that I'm looking for in this spoon, kind of exactly where I want it. You can always put in another central line, and that will kind of give you an understanding of where you're at with that symmetry. I think working on smaller projects like these and actually stopping earlier on with the axe and moving quite, quite quickly to knife work, I think that's something that has kind of helped me hone in some of my knife skills. Doing it the other way around, you hone in your axing skills. But I'm enjoying kind of the process of making just simple teaspoons and using, more knife work and less axe. There we go. So the bowl is finally in a spot that I'm happy with. So what I'm now starting to do is kind of round off the top end of this spoon. And I'm trying my best to work around this knot. It hasn't really been working. But it will give us a nice looking spoon. So again, we're doing something quite simple. We're trying to kind of just get a fun, fidgety type of spoon. Nothing too fancy when it comes to design. And I think that's a really good tip I can give you, is start off by doing simple, straight-handled designs. So what I've done so far is I've kind of, added this ending to the spoon. I think that, helped me kind of understand the general shape that I was looking for. Another thing that I'm doing is I've given a very ever so slightly facet to kind of, guide where I want the crank, the change of direction in this kind of neck bowl transition, where I want that to be and how I want that to look. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. I'm also at the same time just kind of trying to finesse the back end of the spoon. I think, I've kind of understood slowly that I'm looking for a more rustic kind of look for this spoon. I really like having spoons that are like teaspoons or coffee spoons that are a bit more rugged and rustic, kind of something that's chunky. You could hold your hand and not be afraid to kind of hit the end of a cup or something like that. So I feel like that's the direction that this spoon is pushing me to go in, because of the change of so much direction in this, small piece of wood. And yeah, the grain is really, really strange, but it is carving nicely once I find that, kind of area. So what I now want to try at least and do is take some material off the end of the handle and give me that, banana shape, I guess, in a way. I don't know if the camera's picking this up, but I'm quite pleased with it. Yeah. And now we're gonna take some material out of the... So again, I'm not trying to replace any lessons that you should be taking about proper use of these tools. So I'm just kind of demonstrating what I do. For a small spoon like this, I can start out using, just a simple hook tool. Again, this is an Avinoam Leber blade handle made by me. but just really, really nice blade. And I'll often start off, even with smaller pieces of wood like this, I'll often start off with the Tukka-Kam. And just remove some material from inside the spoon. I can also work, you know, just like you would with a hook knife, kind of getting really nice cuts. I'm going to go deep with this knife, and then I'm going to come back to my just, you know, simple hook knife and work in and widen, you know, what we're trying to do. For more, you know, for kind of the more strength, or, you know, strong cuts where we're applying a lot of force with our hand, I like to get this hand out of the way, holding at the end of the spoon. I think that's kind of proper technique, so that everything is, you know, kind of out of the way. If I was closer, then, you know, this area in my wrist would be in the way, and I'm not so much interested in being cut there. I have seen it happen, but it's never happened to me. And once I'm at this point, what I can do is kind of work down until I feel, you know, resistance. In other words, the knife isn't cutting anymore. And I could put this in between my fingers and work into kind of that area. Notice how, you know, the fingers on my other hand are really, really helpful, and really guiding the knife through the different cuts. So there's a lot of opposing hand kind of work in carving. We do not need a deep spoon for this one. We're not going to be really eating a lot of food with it. It's a really smaller bowl, not a tiny bowl. We can get, you know, yogurt out of a, you know, the bottom of one of those yogurt cups, but it's more intended for like sugar, adding sugar to your tea, and mixing your tea or coffee. Just, you know, a simple teaspoon. That's what I was thinking about when I started carving this. And yeah. So that's kind of it for now. I am going to come back to this, you know, to the hook knife, and taking some more material out of the bowl. It's going to be more finishing cuts than really, you know, getting the bowl deeper. I'm just trying to get, you know, kind of, for now, a finish that I'm happy with. And I'm going to go back to this straight knife and finish off the spoon. So I have you at just a different angle to see things closer. And, you know, kind of what I'm now trying to do is retrace some things I've done earlier. I did move to a knife I like using for finishing a little bit more. You know, this is the Nick Westerman double beveled knife. I think is really, really cool. And I'm just trying now to see if I can get a really nice finish on some of these facets that I've created, and also around this, you know, eye that has given me some grief so far. So I've come back to the spoon knife, or the crook knife, and what I'm now trying to do is work with the grain in the same direction the grain, you know, grew, and just get some really nice, you know, kind of straight curls down till where the knife, you know, kind of stops cutting and starts splitting. That's kind of where I know where I need to stop. And I'm just working on getting this really nice, this area right over here. Let's see if we can get this. Now, once I have this, you know, kind of where I want it, I'll come over from the other end and work into that same spot, hopefully meeting So some of the things I did off camera was I chamfered, you know, the front end of the spoon, and I'm just working on finishing it just a bit. We've gone quite a long way from, you know, from where we started, but really, all in all, I am quite pleased with this spoon. I like it. I'm gonna leave it just the way it is. So I'm gonna apply some of my homemade finishing oil to it. Get just a really nice kind of looking spoon for tea, and that's it. I mean, this is gonna dry in the sun over the next day or so. It'll probably get another coat of this oil. I don't burnish, I don't do any of that crazy stuff. So yeah, but fun, quick little project. Let me close this up. So folks, thank you very much for joining me today, you know, carving this spoon. My channel is intended for people who'd like to carve with me. So often I'll speak in plural, you know, as we carve this spoon together is a good example. So there's no one else in here in the room with me right now. I really enjoyed carving this little spoon. I think it's a fun project. I think you should definitely give it a try. Honestly, carving is just such an amazing thing to be doing these days with everything that's going on in the world and the craziness everywhere. I think my kind of mental center is in carving. So I'd really like to invite you to subscribe to my channel. Maybe there's some things there. They might be in Hebrew, but you could probably pick up on some of the motions I'm going through with the tools. Again, thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you again on my channel soon.